why you...
Because we have visitors, they have to see the process.
To get jumpy.
Okay.
How's your week been? How's
Okay.
with that tundra?
We're ready to roll.
Yeah.
Okay, Carl.
We still have a minute. Okay. It being almost 5 o'clock, I'm going to call the Select Board meeting to order on January 18th, 2024. And are there changes and additions to the agenda?
Yes, there are. There are two non-publics added, one a session E and a session A to the agenda. I also,
Looks like you added the payroll.
and I added the payroll.
Right. So one of the non-publics we are going to have to do at the beginning of this meeting, so I make a motion to go into the non-public. Under RSA 91A:3-2E.
Second.
Roll call vote. Fair yes.
Schaefer, yes.
Prentice, yes.
We are now in non-public.
And so, can I just say for those who are joining the meeting, we'll be back together probably in a few short minutes.
Remind me, we were just talking.
Yeah.
Enjoy, have a good night. Leslie, how are you? Good. How you doing? Good.
Nobody got into my wallet while I was gone today.
That's all we
Well, you better pat down Carl when you leave, because
Stick my fingers.
ulterior motives.
It's 5:14.
I make a motion to come out of non-public session at 5:14.
Second.
Okay, let me,
Roll call vote. Fair yes.
Schaefer, yes.
Prentice, yes.
Now out of non-public. Pretty soon we'll be on Zoom.
okay,
Oh,
participants.
yeah, the minutes are not sealed.
Okay, we are back in action. Hi, everybody.
Great.
All right,
Okay.
on to new business. And petition article discussions. We're going to start with Tri-County Cap, Brenda Cannon. No, not Brenda?
Brenda's on Zoom.
Oh, there she is. Hi.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for letting me come and talk to you tonight. If I lose my voice, I'll just yell louder.
Brenda, can I just interrupt you a second?
Of course.
I'm sorry, but we did have a message that the chair was going to announce, but
And, right, Emery was gonna
and
read
he's
it.
not
Oh,
here.
yeah,
Do you
yeah.
wanna go ahead and,
Yeah, why don't
I've
you go
got
ahead,
it,
'cause
so
yeah,
this is from Emery.
yeah.
Representing the board. We're happy to welcome the leadership staff from several of the nonprofits working in our community. As you all may know, any organization can have a petition article added to the town warrant requesting support from the taxpayers. Over the years, the list in Tamworth has grown, and we are now funding 12 nonprofits with a combined total of over $179,000 annually. There is no question that the work is important, but this is a lot of money for the taxpayers to carry, and so we have invited you here this evening to help us understand how many Tamworth residents your organization is directly helping and with what specific services. We ask that you keep your presentation short, under 3 to 5 minutes, so that the select board will have time to ask questions if needed. If Carl cuts you off, please understand that we're managing speaking with multiple organizations tonight. And I'm going to add to this too that the process is that the board has gotten the paperwork from all the agencies. We've looked at that, and in that paperwork, every agency has, in some with more level of deep forensic detail than others, really broken down how they serve Tamworth residents specifically. And the board, after the budget hearing, will make recommendations to support the warrant articles or not. We also have the ability to, if we don't support it, we can at town meeting, we'll be asked why we're not supporting it, and we can say we support it in a different amount than maybe what's been presented. We're really trying to be tight with this year's budget, because taxes have been increasing, and when we've been looking at what other towns give to support outside agencies, we stand out as being supporting with exponentially more money than other towns. So we're trying to be mindful of how important the agencies are to people in need, and also that those people in need have to be able to pay their taxes. So we're going to start. Thank you, Brenda. Sorry we had to cut you off. We're going to start with Brenda.
Not a problem at all. Well, then let me make it short and sweet for you. Last year, our agency provided services for 968 residents of the town of Tamworth with a dollar value of $522,000. Our services include our dentist office, fuel assistance, electric assistance, guardianship services, our Head Start program, housing services for homeless and displaced, transportation, and weatherization. Our main goal is to provide services to people in need. That does include both the elderly, disabled, low income, and of course the general public. Not all of our programs require certifications or qualifications. Quite often are offered regardless of an income level. This year we are asking for level funding again. We use a formula-based method when we ask the towns, and in Carroll County that level is $2.25 per resident, which is why you see the same figure this year as last year. We're still using the 2020 census for all of our areas actually. So this year again we are asking for the $63.27 in funding. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
So your determination of the number that you asked for isn't based on the number of people you provide services for, but it's a census number?
Yes,
Yeah.
we use the census. And when we take that in retrospect to the services provided, the value for the services provided, when we boil that down, sometimes it was all over the place, and we said, no, we need a static number. Mm-hmm. And that's when we began using the census. And every town in Carroll County, we ask the same
Yeah, our internet's a little wonky.
formula funding,
Okay.
the $2.25 per resident.
Okay. Is the office here in Tamworth, has the staffing been reduced or the hours been reduced? It seems like accessibility last year was, based on feedback from our welfare administrator, it seemed like accessibility to services was really challenging for a lot of people and for her. So we're just wondering, we
Right.
didn't know if something's changed.
No, nothing has changed. We had an inter-office decision to make because we were seeing another influx of COVID among our staff, and to keep not just our staff but the general public as safe as we possibly could, we started with the Tamworth building, people going for fuel assistance or the homeless programs, to call ahead and make appointments, and then they would bring them into what we call a sterile environment. We were trying to cut down on the spread again. Unfortunately, it's helping, but it hasn't cured it.
Okay, I'm just reading questions from our welfare administrator. What
Sure.
do you have somebody in the Tamworth office that is available to communicate changes in your practice or policy with the welfare administrators?
We can actually. Our director of housing is Eric Becker, and I can have Eric reach out to the welfare director for Tamworth and give him direct contact information if there's something that the welfare director needs.
So is he up in Gorham?
Eric?
Yeah,
No, actually, he's out in Lancaster.
Lancaster. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the last question was, there was some, it seemed like a lag last year. I don't remember exactly your deadline for fuel assistance, but like October 15th, let's say, was your deadline for applying for fuel assistance. And we had people in February who still had not gotten any support, though they had met the deadline, their paperwork was in. And so the town ended up picking up on that, providing that support instead. And we also provided a lot of housing. We were told that TRICAP's doesn't have any homeless resources in the area anymore, so we've been providing that, and also electricity. So that's why I was asking about changes in services, because I know that last year our welfare budget for the town is doubled, maybe, for, it's the proposed doubling. And part of it is because we feel like we've been picking up on services that weren't getting followed through on somehow.
Well, thanks for that question, because there has been changes in how some of the programs are now opening and closing. For instance, this year, the state didn't even open our fuel assistance and electric assistance program until December 1st this year, which kind of threw everybody into a mess, because as we all know, living in New England, it gets colder a lot earlier than December. We also had some crossover with the end of the rental assistance program. We had some funds that were going to not just house people, but also help them with their heat and their electric. So when it got towards the end of all the funds, even though people had applied, we were literally running out of funding at the time. Last year was a huge need among a lot of our programs. So this year we've gotten already over 5,000 or 6,000 applications for fuel and electric. And now that the program is officially opened, as of December 1st, they have a period within 60 days where the process has to happen and be submitted for approval. And I met with the Director of Energy Services today, and she said they're finally caught up. It was a huge amount to process with their staff. Normally one staff person is doing 250, and right now one staff person is doing about anywhere between 500 and 600 applications per day to try to intake and then certified. Yeah, it's going to be a big year, I think.
Yeah. And then the last question was, you mentioned that you had to change your protocols because of COVID transmission, so that people were supposed to call ahead for appointments. And I know one of the challenges that our welfare administrator faced was not being able to get anybody on the phone.
Yes, the girl that is working there, probably most of the people in the area know her. She is doing home visits as well with clients. Excuse me, not customers, there are clients. She does have an answering system, but we are in the process of seeing if we can't get a new seasonal receptionist who's going to be a live voice to start taking all messages and be able to relay them to her.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the funding we receive from the state only allows us that one full-time person. That's all we get. So we're going to try and see if we can get a seasonal receptionist to help her out with some of the phone calls.
Is all your funding from the state, is it all federal?
The majority of it is, yes,
Yeah.
federal funds.
Yeah. So I think we're going to ask everybody who comes before us this question. What happens if we don't fund you the $6,327 you're asking for?
Well, the funding that we receive from the towns go to the match that is required through our federal grants.
Okay.
In order to get federal money, they don't fund any program 100%. So in order to get that money, we have to ask for local support from the towns and counties so that we can come up with the match money for those federal dollars.
Okay. those are all the
Yeah,
questions that we had list for, so thank you very much. Those were clear answers.
Very helpful, thanks.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Feel
Thanks, you
better.
too.
Hope you feel better.
Thanks.
How's your truck?
Better than it was a few hours ago.
Okay, so now we
Sorry, take
are,
over. I was spaced
so
out.
that was Brenda. The starting point here?
Yep. Moving on to.
Oh,
Just made it.
Oh, it's Rita.
hi Rita.
Very good timing.
I think we should ask.
Moving on to starting point?
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
So
It's
what's
actually
your last
Rachel.
name? Stoddard.
Rachel
Stoddard.
do you have certain questions?
I've always known your first name.
I don't usually tell my last name.
Hold on one second.
So we started with, I don't know if you were in when
I just got here.
when Brenda started. So what we ask is you do like a 2 to 3 minute, like fast summary of really specifically what services you're providing to Tamworth citizens. And then we'll maybe have some questions, and we're gonna end with the question, and what are you gonna do if we don't give you the money?
Okay. Does crying count?
That's a valid response, I think.
So Starting Point provides services for all of Carroll County, and they'll be the same in Tamworth as they are for the other towns. We provide services that include, we provide services free and confidential for victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, stalking, and human trafficking. And they include everything from crisis intervention 24/7 to emergency shelter, transitional shelter, financial support, financial literacy, work readiness programs, individual personal advocacy, and we also provide outreach and prevention in all of our schools. So last year for Tamworth, we had 48 victims served in Tamworth and provided over 1,000 services. I certainly can't give you any specifics about
Right.
the victims that we worked with, but I can tell you that we've had Tamworth residents in our shelter. And our follow-up services can be lengthy because it takes a long time to adjust to a life after being victimized, so that can sometimes include paying for electric bills or helping with oil or food insecurity or transportation or special services for children or connection to, Tamworth has the Nurses Association, but if they're in our Conway, maybe that's something we should talk about, because if they're in our Conway area, then we're providing connection with health services as well. We have a mental health practitioner who works with us specifically, offering services once a week to all clients who are in our care. If we don't get the money, it will be very tough because VOCA has just recently been defunded, so we're missing a big chunk of our federal money, and our services are more than ever being used and needed. We started before the pandemic. We provided 7,000, something like 7,000 bed nights. And then for the year, and in the first quarter of the year during the pandemic, we provided almost 14,000, and that number has not gone down. It hasn't changed. I think we provided 13,000 services last year, and we see a continuous increase. I think the housing situation definitely plays a very big role in the need of our clients. We're seeing food insecurity and an inability to pay, some basic utility bills that Starting Point helps with. We also help with housing. So we have a housing program that helps people when there's housing available to get into their own housing. And that can include first, last, and security, and then a tapered payment of until they're up and running again.
What's VOCA?
The Violence Against Women Act.
Oh.
It's a federal grant.
And it was cut?
It's called VOCA.
It was cut though?
It was cut, yeah. I know that we're missing, over the next 3 years, we'll be missing $50,000 from our budget.
Okay.
It sounded like there was some overlap with, we were just talking to Tri-County CAP, and they help with fuel assistance and housing and
Yeah,
the same.
when they don't, we do. So we
Oh, I
make
see.
our connection with program partners. I have to say, one of the proudest things I feel about Starting Point is that we do have a continuum of care, and we work really well with all of our partners. And when there's gaps, that's when Starting Point takes over, fills in. So, but when you've had victimization and trauma, I don't know if you've ever called one of those services, but
just
it can
applying, yeah.
actually cause trauma.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's some of the work that we do, is help connecting them with their community. Networking and connecting with the community is one of the greatest services that we offer, because that actually does reduce the incident of domestic violence and speeds up the healing process, because they're no longer isolated and alone to be victimized.
Do we have any specific questions we'd like to ask?
No, I think, thank you.
That was clear.
Appreciate it.
No tears
And-
tonight.
You
and
did
what was
good.
the last question we're asking?
She
No, she just answered that.
She
though.
answered it, yeah,
Yeah.
that was about the 50,000.
And you're still here, that's good, because
Okay.
I kind of parked like a jerk, so.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Rita.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming in. Moving on to the Lakes Region VNA with Greg Morgan.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yep.
So glad to be here. This is our first time here asking for appropriation, so we appreciate it. A little bit about Lakes Region VNA. We provide home care and hospice services. We're looking to expand into a hospice house as well as doing some palliative care. As far as the town of Tamworth go, we're here serving the residents primarily over 65 years of age with skilled nursing and therapy services, and anyone that's seeking hospice. Obviously, there's a move to provide as much care as possible at home, so that's one of the big things that we currently provide, and that also helps reduce the incidence of rehospitalization, making sure that homes are safe. Everyone, actually, end-of-life care is really big for us as well now, and to be able to stay at home and, you know, with dignity, with family, around family, as opposed to being in a hospital is one of the things that we really do a good job at helping with. There's definitely been proven enhancement in just the lives and clients that we have served. Over the last year, we provide over 900 home visits to the town. Among those, we had Medicaid clients. Now, Medicaid is certainly are underfunded from the state, and we also do receive very low funding from the state. We provided about $15,000 in charity care in the last fiscal year of services. Furthermore, we're looking, to offer additional services to the clients, i.e. balance classes, clinics, grief support, really to help offset and provide some of those preventative care that's well needed. That will also help keeping patients in their homes and, avoid some of the rehospitalization. We definitely do provide very high quality care to all the towns that we service. We're currently servicing over 37 towns in and around the Lakes region. We're actually one of the 2 agencies out of 20 plus that's rated out of 5-star from patient satisfaction. So we do a very good job. We just celebrated the 100th year, and we're looking to kind of continue into the next 100th year. What we're looking to do, hopefully this fund will offset, the loss that we took or we provided as charity care for one of the 37 towns. Our goal is to be able to add on to some of the services and provide some of the more preventative services that's needed to keep residents in their home. So that's short and sweet enough.
Yeah. So the 15,000 in charity care was for the 900 Tamworth visits
Correct.
that you did,
Yes.
right? So you're just asking for that.
That gap.
Yeah, the gap. Could you explain? So we have the Northern and Southern Carroll County VNA, and we've got Lakes Region
And Granite VNA.
and Granite VNA. So when my dad was dying, he was in Sandwich. Lakes Region did a fabulous job. But I just don't know how he got you and not Southern Carroll County or somebody else. Like, how did the VNAs divide up territory,
Sure.
or how does that
So
work?
there's no division per county or anything. We're all able to kind of play in the same geographical area. Years ago, there were more specific counties.
Okay.
Not the case now. It's usually referral. It's usually patient's choice, patient preference. Someone else had a good experience, they refer it to us. So we have relationships with all the same hospitals depending on where they were, who was in that day. So there's no real dividing of who services the area.
The report that I have here said that you did 900 home visits with 30 clients residing in Tamworth. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's about right.
Is 30 visits per client?
Roughly.
normal?
So we have skilled nurse and PTOT, and then we also have your licensed nurse and assistant. So that will be broken up over those disciplines coming out and seeing patients.
Wow.
Any other questions?
I guess the only other one is the, if we didn't approve the funding, what would happen?
So the biggest thing is the things we're able to, obviously we want to offset, every cost is going up, reimbursement is consistently going down. So
Down, yeah.
we need to remain viable. Right now, 6-7% increase in cost for our employees, they're feeling that. So we'd like to, continue to pass on as a nonprofit where everything we do passes on to our employees and to our staff. The other thing is making sure that we can provide some of those preventative free care in the area, the blood pressure clinics and so on and so forth. Really working on prevention. The next piece of care is getting into the palliative care piece that's really needed, and also into a hospice house. None of those services are currently local. That's all stuff that's probably in Concord or further up in Dartmouth, Hitchcock. So trying to provide some of those more local services. We're probably with Granite, probably the larger agency that's providing care in this area. So our goal is to keep as much of the care local so they don't have to be shipped down to Concord or somewhere else.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming in.
Thanks a lot.
Moving on to June April with the TCNA.
Yeah, it says it, Leslie
Leslie.
Leslie
Johansson.
Johnson.
But she's appointed me to do this. And I want to mention that, as you may probably know, Joanne Rainville would usually be here for this, but she's recovering from heroic back surgery. And so it's me, I have to do it, so.
Again.
And I want to start off just quickly with saying that this is, as you know, completely separate from the building project.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, this is about the operating budget, so just forget about the building.
Yep.
That was an astonishing amount of fundraising that we did, tapped a lot of generous people in our community and through grant writing, we worked hard for that. So 2 questions in my mind about this are, why do we need the money and what do we use it for? And of course, what would we do if you took it away? And secondly, what value does it bring? So on the first point, our annual operating budget is about $245,000, and 80 to 85% of that is personnel. We have 2 nurses, highly qualified nurses, and an admin assistant. So that's really this is core to what we need to run the operation. The rest is supplies and services and so on. So where does that come from? Where do we get $245,000? Those annoying letters you get with the return envelope twice a year from TCNA, we mail to every single Tamworth address, and we usually yield about $45,000, believe it or not. There's a 17% return rate. So you can start with that. We get about $90,000 in yield from our endowment that was established many years ago by Mrs. Whitaker, and it's held with other endowments by the Tamworth Foundation. So they pay out according to policy. So let's add another $90,000 from that, because the value of that endowment has in most years is increased, and that's sort of helped us match payroll increases and so on without having to raise the warrant article for the town. So now we're up to $135,000. We still write some grants, and people leave bequests, or there are other miscellaneous sources, in-kind gifts, that usually adds up to the vicinity of $30,000. That leaves us $80,000 to make up $245 for our whole budget, and that's the basis for our warrant article. I want to mention that the town has supported a TCNA with a warrant article since at least 1932, that's as far back as we went. And of course, that probably was about $500 then, but here we are today. But I do want to point out, we have had a flat warrant article at $80,000 for, I think it's about 10 years. We've managed to manage any budget increases in other ways. We understand how burdensome this is for the taxpayers, so that's where we are. What would we do if you took away, I'll tell you in a minute who gets served by this, but if you took away, I don't know what, we'd have to go back to the board for that question. I mean, because it's all personnel, we probably have to let somebody go and reduce services. The long-term solution might be to try to raise a larger endowment so that we can reduce the warrant article from the amount that we ask from the town. And this year, where we're transitioning to new facilities, if we're going to pay our own utilities, we're going to have do all the repairs ourselves and everything. It wouldn't be a good year to cut back because we need a little reestablish equilibrium with the move. We're not expecting to increase our warrant article next year. We're going to manage somehow without ever having to do that if we possibly can. And obviously, a long-term goal would be to decrease it. So that's kind of the budget thing, and that's why we need it, because that makes up our budget, and our budget is what we operate on and pay our people to do the services. So who benefits? I think it's evident that how much the town appreciates this organization by the response to our fundraising appeals. We're a 17% response rate on a mailing twice a year is quite remarkable. And to get $45,000 a year out of local fundraising is amazing. TCNA, I think I've mentioned this in meetings before, makes about 3,000 contacts with Tamworth residents a year, and that includes telephone, home visits, office visits, and we treat people in cars for COVID tests so that we don't contaminate, or sometimes bandage changes, or so all of those add up to 3,000. And we do keep careful statistics. We need all these for grant writing. We have to show what we do. Now, that isn't 3,000 people. That's because your bandages change twice a week or something, or there's a follow-up, or you go back to the home and make sure this or that. So we do keep track of how many different people, and it's between 350 and 400, which is in the vicinity of 15% of our census population. Most of our folks are over 65, including me. I had to call TCNA on Christmas Day with an acute issue, which I've never called them before, but it was like an insurance policy. I was glad she was there. It's our most vulnerable population, and as you know, we charge nothing. Some of the other organizations collect insurance or have other paperwork or whatever. We do not charge for services. So we save the money. The New Hampshire study 10 years ago showed several $100,000 saved for people having not to go to a medical facility, not to have to go to ER, not to do their co-pays, drugs and so on. So we keep track of that as well. So last year, based on what would have been charged to these folks had they had to go to other medical assistance, we've saved $175,000 round numbers. And I think I'll just stop there. We also deliver close to 10,000 Meals on Wheels a year, which is, volunteers do that, but it's organized out of our office. And I wish we could have volunteer nurses, but they have to be certified. So that's, again, back to the payroll. So I'll stop there. I think you know TCNA pretty well, but you may have some new questions. I'm happy to answer anything I'm capable of answering.
Seemed like you pretty much answered everything.
Did a really good job of everything we had. Did you get this ahead of time?
That's why June's speaking.
Right.
Do we have any other questions?
I guess one is, do you have just a demographic percentage of age ranges that the TCNA services?
Yeah, I don't have the whole thing, but we know from several surveys it's 60 to 70% are over 65.
Okay.
And often these are folks, of quite needy and not willing, you know, us old timers don't wanna ask for help. And one of the things about TCNA, they're proactive. They hear about something, Joanne hears about something, we don't wait for people to call. She goes and sees them. You know, somebody has a loss in the family, she says, you probably need a friend more than a nurse, but she does both, you know, she goes in and does it. I mean, it's really, I'm new to Tamworth, only 12 years, but this is an amazing organization. And we have quite a reputation as being the only such, I think, in the United States. Tamworth is a town that's learned to care for itself without a lot of, and we're proud to be part of that. The Bear Camp Center, TCNA, the Christmas Project, just people caring for people here is just, it's amazing, really. Okay.
One other thing, might you happen to know the number between wellness versus skilled nurses visits in that report?
I do not.
Okay.
No. I'm sure we have the data, but I don't have that with
Just
me.
curious.
Yeah.
That's fine.
We do all the way to skilled nursing.
Yeah.
So, very good. Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
Thank
Yeah, thank you for coming in tonight.
Thank you, Leslie.
Hat in hand. Building is coming along.
I know, looking
Great.
beautiful.
So they're able to keep going
Yeah.
for the. Okay, well, I was gonna discuss.
Anybody else? That was the last
I was gonna do.
nonprofit, right?
We're adding department head update and thing.
Yeah.
Or with.
Yeah.
Take care of everybody.
Supposed to be on the agenda?
No, I'm gonna do public comment, I guess.
I have
Steve
keys
with
for the
the,
building. Any
Selectmen's
time of
report.
day.
Take all the help I can get.
on the,
Yeah.
Remember, you're gonna have that space pretty soon. You better.
I know.
Do we have another? No, that's it. Okay.
Yeah.
you can move me up if you want.
Sorry. Not yet. We're gonna wait a few more minutes.
I
Wait,
can't tell
is
something.
Dana,
Dana's coming up next.
oh, we forgot to put him on the agenda?
Yes, we
That's why I'm gonna add him right now.
Oh.
We
Okay,
just
Dana.
talked about it.
Not that I'm
Okay.
putting him in front of you, but.
Oh, sorry.
Department head update with Chief Littlefield.
Good evening.
Hello.
Howdy.
It's been some time, so I'm just gonna roll back here to October.
Wow.
I won't belabor too much though. October 28th, we did our drug take back, which is, we do twice a year, April and October, and we get unwanted medications. It's a part of a national drug take back initiative through the DEA. And anyway, we took in about 14 pounds of disposed medications that got taken down to Concord and put in the incinerator. The other thing in October was the Halloween Main Street event, primarily organized by the Tamworth Outing Club. I had advocated the year before that, the one that we did this prior year, that we closed Main Street completely and allow people to walk more freely. We were able to do that, and I thought it was a great success. Heard a lot of great compliments. The Outing Club does a tremendous job organizing, getting everybody to participate, volunteering and everything like that. We're also able to, they convinced the PTA to move over there. They did the trunk or treat for years or less since COVID at the school. They were able to move over here to the parking lot. They had a tremendous amount of gathering there. So it was just a wonderful community event. I'd love to see more things like that, but I was glad that we were able to help facilitate, closing down that road, making it more safe for people to go up and down the road, and people clear out in a reasonable hour because they still want to hit some of the developments with their kids. But I don't know. I'd like to see it continue to grow and maybe expand, or maybe a food truck or something.
If you're hungry?
Yeah.
There's something other than Snickers bars.
Make a couple laps up and down.
Yeah,
Also
so
more than candy.
Sergeant Burley or trick or treating.
Yeah. As you guys are aware, at the end of September there, or was it October, I can't remember, our patrolman resigned, so leaving us with a deficit, tremendous deficit right now. Just so we're clear, I'm the one full-time officer, and then we have the sergeant who is in a part-time. And she's retired part-time, so she can only work an allotted amount of hours, which is 1,352 hours. We can choose how that's divvied up. So we really have her for less hours this year than we did last year, because we had a smaller window to work with last year once she retired. So now we're got a full 12 months this year. We divvy it up a little bit different. And that accounts for her taking her own, vacation time and stuff like that. So applicants are not, we're getting a lot of applicants through Indeed. I can't say those are great applicants. We got some applicants through Facebook. Most of the applications we got are, meet the bare minimum requirement, but none have, law enforcement qualifications or anything like that. Most of them don't have any sort of thing that comes close. So we're pawing through them. We, putting aside ones that we're not gonna bother with, and we'll put together some that we'll probably interview within the next month and see if we get anything good. Ideally, we really would like to fulfill that initial deficit with a certified officer. We kind of poke and prod at what's out there, but it's very limited. And one of the disparaging things that I think I hear out there when it comes to working for us is that we're just busy. And it, not that, I don't know, it sounds awful, but to say that, they're lazy or whatever, it's just that people aren't always wanting to take on extra work. So they might be at an agency where their workload or caseload is a lot less, and the idea of coming here and taking on a heavier caseload is just not appealing, even if it's for more money or whatever. So I find that that's really the sort of hubbub I hear here and there, unfortunately. The caveat there is obviously the more we increase staffing, the more caseload, workload sharing that comes about. As it is, right now, if you've got 100 cases, you got 2 officers right now. One's taking on 50, the other's taking on 50. Well, it's not like that really, because I work the majority of the hours, whereas the sergeant works, for fewer hours. She's still working about 4 days a week, but the hours are minimized. There's been a couple accidents on Page Hill recently. I don't know, yes, there's weather involved, but obviously I think, typically speed is a factor. Just because the road is posted for 35 miles an hour, if it's snowing, that doesn't mean you should drive 35 miles an hour.
Right.
Or 50.
Yeah, well, the truth is they're driving beyond that, but that's, what they always say to me. I talked about this a while back, about creating a set of directions and maybe publicly disseminating it on how to get Google to, identify that as a nuisance and change the way they route it. I hadn't put that out or anything, and then I just found out while I was on the accident scene the other morning, Jim Bowles mentioned that when they do road projects, they ask the traffic management control office to contact Google or Waze and reroute traffic for whatever reasons. So they actually have an in with those companies to make those changes immediately, is my understanding. And I did ask Jim, but he didn't have a direct answer, so I think it would be good to explore if that's an avenue that we can petition the state to say, can we get this changed?
Yeah.
One thing, I was just talking to Richard Roberts, he mentioned about, if we drop the speed limit, like at least on Page Hill, or ask the state to drop it on Tamworth Road, which I know they want to raise it, but, would that cause mapping systems like Google to look at that and go, you know, oh, that's a slow route because of the speed limit. But I mean, it's already 35.
If it was like a 25 or something.
Yeah, maybe, because, right, I don't think dropping it to 30 is gonna affect, it's already 35, it should already represent a slower route the way it stands, but for some reason it doesn't.
113 is 35 too, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 35 from 25 all the way back to 16.
113.50.
And I will tell you, I've had conversations with the state, the same gentleman that raised the one in South Tamworth, about saying, you know, he'd like to see Tamworth Road raised to 45 and Shakora Road raised to 45, and neither of which I agree with. Because Shakora Road has really funky twists and turns that throw people off the road, and a higher speed will just cause more accidents. And obviously Tamworth Road with just the, you know, I get the stretch from the school to Depot Road with the wide shoulders, but people just aren't going to slow down regardless. We did get them to put in a sign after Depot Road, so like where the sign is right now. Anyway, it's just something to think about, and may request the board to provide some sort of letter if the TNC will do it. I doubt they will, but it's worth exploring.
I know that so Page Hill is no through trucking. Can you do like local traffic only or no through traffic?
Yeah, I got an email. We had explored that
Just
when we
curious.
had an incident, and I had turned around a truck right on the bridge as you come off 16 in Chicora, and made them go down the Y section because they were just through trucking, you know, to head over to 25. And so I want to see if the state will put in a truck route sign on 25 and 16 that points them to stay on, at least for the trucks to stay on 16 and 25. Might help a little bit, or if they pay attention or read the signs. What the state told me at one point is nobody reads the signs, so.
That's pretty true. Is it enforceable
The
at all?
truck, no, the trucking isn't.
Yeah.
Really, I mean,
Well, the truck route part, I'd have to look into that.
The
The
I mean, even
the
putting
ton,
on
the 6 ton, yes.
local traffic only, if your
Yeah,
GPS tells you to go there, you're going there.
yeah, the trucking doesn't seem to be a huge
Yeah.
issue on Page Hill anyway. I mean, once in a while you get
A
random
Lowe's-
tractor
Lowe's
trailer.
truck.
yeah, like a random tractor trailer that'll drive by, but it's kind of out of the ordinary.
I did. There was a Coca-Cola truck out there recently, and then I heard word back from somebody who knew the Coca-Cola driver, and they said they were on that road because of the Pueblo page, and it did dawn on me to think that there's a restaurant there now, so they're
Yeah, I
on.
wouldn't have thought of that.
So maybe the Cisco trucks or whatever,
Yeah.
you know, something
Local
new.
traffic,
Yeah.
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 The Lowe's truck, I don't think is going to the public.
No.
Page,
No.
but, not saying Lowe's in general, but
But
using
yeah.
that for example.
Yeah. So yeah, there's you know, obviously that continues to be an issue. And I was just telling Richard Marvis, it's hard road for us to really enforce because it has a lot of blind corners and crests and stuff like that. So even if we, you know, and it's a narrow road, so just to whip around, it's a 2 to 3 point turn. And hopefully it's not in a blind spot. I mean, I had somebody come over that road. I had somebody right up behind me, so I had to pull off and wait for them to go. And then by the time I got turned around, I didn't pick up that person till past Shakora Lake. You know, wrote them a ticket and they ripped it up. That's how it went. So, yeah. So whatever, we'll continue to try to address it, but you know, we don't have the staffing level to even meet the amount of volume that travels over that road. You know, Tamworth Road, whatever. You know, we do put out a number of hours of active patrol, but that's all around town or the main busier areas. Not always around Willie's house. I bring this up again because, you know, it just seems to be another plaguing nuisance that we deal with, and that's Candlepine Village. It's all consistent of private roads, and recently, you know, we've had complaints, and you know, maybe you'll hear grumblings about it, but about unmaintained sections of roads, or maybe one resident is plowing, you know, into another, like blocking a road or something like that. And you know, one of the roads I argue has never been a through road because one end of it, you know, where it connects to the other road has just been a big mud pit for years. I mean, I remember watching a state trooper park their cruiser in the puddle and got stuck and flooded the cruiser. And that's how bad it's always been. And, you know, that was the section in question. And unfortunately, people don't like my answer when I say it's a private road. You know, you pay to maintain it yourself, or get a shovel and move it, whatever, you know. Yeah, your neighbor shouldn't, you know, maybe be nicer and not block out the road, but there's nothing that dictates it, you know. And the argument of, you know, emergency services being able to get to it, well, I treat it as no different than anybody with a long driveway that doesn't maintain it. I mean, it's no different than that. And in that situation, there's an access from the other side to come in. And so, you know, at best, what we did is just said, we told our dispatch, update the geo file directions so that emergency responders come in from this side and avoid that. Again, just bringing it to your attention. It's nothing that the town should really get involved in. There's really not much they can do. They need to, they're, I think, one of 2 private roads or developments with, that are unorganized.
Yeah, they have an association.
Yeah, and that's the biggest problem, you know. The other
So
one.
are you getting calls, complaints? Is that why you're bringing it up?
Yeah, and they're not happy with our, you know, our answers. I mean,
Are these people that have lived in there for a long time or just bought property and they're
no, a long time. Yeah. Yeah. It's and you know, at this point it was kind of my next topic, but I mean, a gentleman I had in today that was complaining, you know, when they don't like our answer, the resolve for them is to call us useless and then say they're going to go take care of it themselves, meaning they're going to go cause a criminal act or violence, you know, in order to deal with it, because nobody has the means to problem solve on their own. So it's frustrating. It is what it is. It's, you know, and like you said, if you've lived there for years and it's been like that for years, why are we complaining about it now?
Yeah, and if it was, there's 2 ways to that. If it was somebody that just bought property in there, you had to know when you bought property that it was a private, you know,
something to
private
think
roads
to keep in mind when these subdivisions, you know, get approved or stuff like that. You know, maybe forcing them to have formal organizations, you know, associations would be.
Now they have to be kept up to a certain.
Did become part of the regulations at one.
Yeah, and I don't know the history on Campbell Village. How long
It's too old.
Been there a long time.
Yeah, I'm sure it has.
It was a,
So.
yeah.
So, and then I'll just end with, you know, the crux of our job really, when it comes down to it, is to enforce criminal law and protect people from being in harm's way. Like, that's just the brass tacks of it. But oftentimes we're pulled into civil issues because nobody knows how to talk like adults to each other. And we get ourselves involved in it only because if we don't mediate it, it can become a criminal issue. Just like I said, you know, people don't like our answer and they'll say, well, I'll take matters into my own hand. Well, okay, we'll sort that out too when we get to it, but that's not really what we want. So we end up in that place a lot of times. And one of the things too, like, is you know, our job, again, is criminal aspect primarily, but we become the last resort for all of the community's problems, including mental illness. And there's just a tremendous increase of mental illness in probably all of society, but you know, I can definitely see it in our community. People are unwilling to talk to each other as adults, to work out their indifferences. I advocate that for people. You know, I'm like, we're not getting involved. You go to your neighbor, you tell them, you know, calmly, peacefully, that you don't want them to run their chainsaw at 6 in the morning or whatever. Whatever the issue is. But people just aren't willing to, or if they do, it's not peacefully. And so mental illness is just like completely on the rise. And we're not, yes, we receive training in that and you know, annual training in it, but we're not mental health clinicians. And there's such a lack of mental health clinicians, a therapist, whatever, psychiatrist. We don't even have the ability to send them anywhere to get help. or help have them come in and deal with it. Yes, there is a crisis response team. We haven't really utilized it. I think they're understaffed as well, and that's a whole statewide initiative. But it increases our workload. We inevitably become babysitters in some manners, and we become mental health clinicians in other manners, and it's quite despairing. I mean, I know people look at it from the outside and go, well, traffic is the issue, traffic is the issue. Yes, it is, absolutely. But what you don't know is on the inside we're dealing with cases that are much more important than that traffic on that road. Yes, we want to be out there, we want to address that traffic, but we also have to deal with victims of cases and stuff like that. We have to complete those reports, get them off to the county attorney's office, conduct the investigations, and we're often being, with the minimal staffing we have, our attention is pulled in 50 different directions. And it's hard to sit down and knock out a report when 5 minutes into that you're called to go deal with an accident or whatever. So, that's just kind of the where we're at right now, and we'll continue to do our best, but it's quite a heavy load that we're carrying.
Is there any way we can leverage mutual aid more, or sheriff's department, state?
Yeah, I know that's always a question, but the truth is state police has, covers, our troop barracks here in Tamworth covers 2 counties, Belknap and Carroll. They are understaffed by 8 troopers.
Wow.
And they send a lot through the academy, but for every one they get from the academy, 2 leave to get transferred. A lot of the people that they hire are from Massachusetts or from the southern part of the state, and they get assigned to the barracks, and then when they're there for a certain amount of time, they put in for transfers to go back down towards closer to their families. So that's why they, for I don't know how many years now, have not been able to maintain a full staffing level. And then the sheriff's office, their primary function is and onus is to the court, civil paperwork service, prisoner transports, things of that nature, and then they primarily devoted to towns that don't have agencies, such as Albany, Hart's location, Hale's location, Chatham, and then agencies that might have an agency, but they're not really out about staffing. So we take a tremendous load off of our dispatch, just like having Linda in the office there for the 3 days a week she's there. She takes in an enormous amount of phone calls, and a lot of smaller agencies like Effingham Freedom direct their calls to the dispatch center. So you might think you're calling their PD directly, but you're not. You're actually calling the sheriff's office dispatch center. Then they will radio if they're off. They have a town officer out. If not, they delegate it out to the sheriff deputy. We don't do that, and it was something I did away with immediately. We have an answering machine, and it just says if it's an emergency, call 911. If you need an officer, immediately call the dispatch center, or otherwise just leave a message and we'll get back to you. And it's been effective, and people get the same continuity from the same staff to deal with the same issues over and over. But we take a tremendous amount of workload off of that dispatch center. Like if we just started porting our phone over there, they'd go crazy. And their dispatchers are understaffed as well. So now to bring a nice solemn tone to the meeting. But
Yeah.
Hang in there.
Any other questions for?
No, thank you for your
Appreciate you
service.
coming
all right, guys, have a good night.
in. See you again in a few months.
Night.
Yeah, sounds good. See ya.
Have a good night. Where was I? Moving on to the appointment of Paul Priestman as the welfare officer. Do we have?
Did you make a motion? Or
No,
you want one?
I'm looking for one, or an explanation.
So we already moved to hire him November 9th or something. So this is just the appointment paper. So
Do we have to
Oh,
motion
okay.
to sign
Just
it?
a
I don't
We
think
just-
so.
it's just to sign it.
Signature file.
We don't have to motion, if we
I
already
mean, we
motioned to hire
already
him.
did like the pay rate and everything at the.
Yeah, okay. We're gonna.
And he accepted the job, so do you have to appoint him once he's accepted it? That was a motion to offer to hire him.
Thank you, Lily.
So I'm just saying we don't need to do the money part again because
Okay.
we already did that.
So, do we have a motion?
Well, somebody make a motion.
Yeah, I would like to make a motion to appoint Paul Priestman as a welfare officer.
Second.
Sorry, I started the meeting, so
Any discussion? No. Roll call vote.
There, yes.
Schaefer, yes.
Prentice, yes.
Roberts, yes. 4 yes, 0 no. You can keep going if you want. Alright. Moving on to the Conservation Commission appointments. Do you want to just make a motion?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I move that we accept Dylan Alden, Ned Beecher, and Jeremy Phillips as members of the commission, Conservation Commission.
And why don't you just do the alternates too?
Oh, and the alternates of Kelly Goodson and Nelson O'Brien.
Second.
Roll call vote.
There, yes.
Schaefer, yes.
Prentice, yes.
Roberts, yes. 4 yes, 0 no. The rail line House Bill 1468-FN-A. So what is this?
I saw it.
I mean, I read.
Maybe I should know.
What are we
I
doing?
didn't-
Talking about it? You know, we got
Just understanding what it is,
I'm not.
I guess your
It's a
guy
different-
didn't end up coming on. Steve, did you get a chance to?
I mean, I looked over it a little bit. It's basically just trying to see what we can do.
Oh, I did see this. Okay, sorry.
yeah.
To reuse the vacated rail line running through our town and Ossipee.
So is that through West Ossipee into a section of Tamworth? Is it that rail line?
Yeah,
Like that goes past where the ambulance service
Yes.
is
Yeah.
or was?
Yeah.
yeah. So
Where's
what do
that?
we have, like 100 yards of
We don't have much.
track?
And I think what I'm blanking on his name, Matt from
Matt
Ospey.
Sawyer.
Yeah, Matt Sawyer.
How come I can't find that email?
Was asking is, you know,
It's
he's looking
called,
for
Peace
community
Force.
support to get this bill
What is that,
passed.
12?
And
I
wouldn't
didn't-
mind a letter of support from the select board if they were
Oh,
so
okay.
inclined.
All right.
Or, you know,
Because he doesn't have a
What are we?
specific.
What is the bill to do? I mean,
it's to require that this, I think the state do a master plan.
is it?
Do you want?
Yeah,
why,
it's
oh.
to make the New Hampshire, I think it's DOT,
Yes.
to create the master plan for that corridor, that rail corridor. Now, that rail corridor goes straight all the way down to the southern part of the state right now. You can see the Ospey Aggregates
Yeah.
brings their stuff down there, but they can't go north because the trail, the
It's
rail
not
bed has to
maintained.
be updated, the trestles have to be done, and everything else. And for years, they've been asking, even for permission to use the rail bed for walking and stuff. And they just haven't been responsive. So the bill is basically asking them to have the state appropriate money, I think it's about $200,000, to create a master plan for that corridor. And they just want support on the bill, because once that happens, you know, they would have charrettes, they would have listening sessions, they would have people get together to find out what's the best use for that rail bed. Could it be commercial freight, so we can bring the freight and business all the way up through the state, which would be good for the economy, or could it just be for, you know, for recreation trails? But that would start the process, because then it kind of puts something in place that would become a plan for that corridor.
Does it?
That's
Thank
super
you.
helpful.
Does it go all the way to Conway? I thought it was kind of like dead in the woods and by Silver Lake.
No, it goes all the way to Conway. You can go on the snow machine trail. You can ride right up to like Beep by Beep Beep. It goes right behind Beep Beep.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
continues right
But
up
is there
through.
rail on it still?
Oh, I believe so. The whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not. It would have to
I
be.
don't think they can bring freight up there.
No, it would all have to be replaced and rebuilt.
Because in Silver
I
Lake,
think.
when he redid that little section of it,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's,
believe it all
It kinda
has
stops
old
at
rail.
Right.
yeah.
The whole
They have
way.
to be rebuilt for major use.
Yeah.
I think it's north of North Conway where I think they come together north of North Conway. Because even in Whitaker Woods, there are 2 rail lines. There's the one.
Oh, really? So it
Yeah,
comes up
there's
around?
one coming from Maine and one coming up.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he just wants a letter of support?
Or
Yeah,
just
I
that
mean-
we vote to
Well-
support.
He's seeking, he would like everyone in the community to support it, but yeah.
So-
If the bill passes, it would just mean the state will appropriate money
And create a master plan.
tell the DOT to come up with a master plan for that rail. Now, part of Lakes Region Planning Commission and Stratford Regional, which would be the other one,
Right.
this would be a regional impact type of bill.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a rail group
Right.
at LRPC, and they have a rail group down in Stratford that's active because they have more rail down there.
Right.
Just imagine the economic boom if we did have a freight line that came all the way up the state, that would go all the way up to like Pittsburgh. I mean, you would have business coming from all over the place.
Yeah.
So he just wants that to be passed so they'll come up with a plan instead of just doing nothing.
So
And it
could
looks
we,
like where he's getting the funding is, or where the bill proposes funding come from is
State.
state,
So could we-
federal and state.
vote to support this and then send them a letter, or vote to send them a letter, or not vote and just send them a letter?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, let's go on the record and support it.
Okay, so I make a motion to support the House Bill 1468-FN-A for the rail line.
Second.
Roll call vote.
There, yes?
Schaefer, yes.
Prentice, yes.
Roberts, yes. Did I say I vote to or I motion?
You said you
So
motioned.
support. Motion. Why did I? Okay, sorry.
So Keith, will you just draft that then?
Yeah.
And to add, the
yeah.
people that, the reps that sponsored this is Rep Smith put it in from Ossipee,
Uh-huh,
Mark McConkey,
yeah.
Lino Avalani, and I believe it's Glenn Cordelli. So your area reps
Reps, yeah.
came up with
Do you know when the hearing is?
Who's second?
that. I do not, but if you check the website, it's gotten very good. Pardon the schedule.
Okay.
Moving on to old business
That is.
with the budget.
Budget town report.
Okay,
or-
so you all have a budget in front of you. I think we have reached a final number. We are, there was. Excuse me. Sure. Some good puts and takes. For example, we had a $99,000 energy improvement number in here at some point that came down to 14. We had, probably in the final revenue number, we came in 100,000 higher than I was estimating. And there was another put and take, but it all in, what it did is it gave us a lot more leeway to just kind of be, our tax effort for 2024 is about 30,000 lower than the tax effort for 2023. Which is good news.
That's good news.
Yeah. And we were able to put in the full amount for the compactor, the trash compactor, so we could buy it this year, which is also good news.
Yeah, I don't think you have to put the model number.
Yeah.
But you might say for the transfer station, so they know it's not for here.
Right. $40,000 trash compactor for here. So anyway, I think the budget, it's in a good place, a solid place.
I think we should just recognize too, the committee chairs and the department heads who, I mean, there was significant work on their part. You were of course the
Absolutely.
coordinator
I'm
of all
just the hub
significant
of a
work,
wheel.
but, I mean, I just think we're lucky that there was no pulling teeth, people just stepped up and did
Yeah.
what they had to do.
So basically the update is,
This is it.
This is it.
This is it. I've started sort of.
Minus 1%, oh,
Yeah.
so nice.
The warrant is drafted, it's been reviewed by Christine, it'll probably get reviewed again, final draft. I have put the first round into the Department of Revenue. And that, I haven't hit send yet because I just wanna go over it tomorrow one more time before I do, but that'll go in tomorrow to DRA. And the town report is pretty much ready except for the warrant and the budget to be inserted. So that can't go to print until after the
Budget hearing.
budget hearing.
Yeah.
But it's in good shape, assuming, even if we have to, it'll go to print on the 9th, we'll have it by the 1st, which is when we're supposed to, and it'll get distributed, so everything's on track.
It's great.
So last year, did you write the selectmen
Yeah,
Oh,
do
yeah.
I have to do it again this year?
report? I don't know. You don't have
If
to.
you will,
I just wrote the personnel policy.
You don't want to.
I can do it.
Nose goes?
I'm so on that. I will write the select board report.
Thank you.
You're buying.
Yeah, gotcha.
I'm gonna write myself a message because I'll forget.
Well, that's over now.
Moving on, so we did budget, town report. And warrant update? We did that?
Yeah.
Jeez, I missed everything. What about the administrator report? We didn't do that
Pretty
yet.
much, I just gave it.
Yeah.
And our bank balance is $4,868,211. You know, what's going on? We're working on the budget and the warrant and the town report. Yeah.
Great.
Yep.
Moving on to the signature file, I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for January 4th, 2024.
Second.
Roll call vote.
There, yes.
Schaefer, yes.
Prentice, yes.
Roberts, yes. 4 yes, 0 no. I make a motion to approve the non-public meeting minutes under RSA 91-A:3 2A, January 4th, 2024.
Second.
Roll call vote.
There, yes.
Schaefer, yes.
Prentice, yes.
Roberts, yes. 4 yes, 0 no.
Backside.
I make a motion to
Just
approve
do
the abatement for map 407, lot 26, in the amount of $1,699.
Second.
Roll call vote.
There, yes.
Schaefer, yes.
Prentice, yes.
Roberts, yes. 4 yes, 0 no. I make a motion to approve the timber yield yield on timber cut
Okay. Yeah.
for the amount of $24,183.32.
Second.
Roll call
What
vote.
Wow.
Or discussion.
That was a, we haven't seen that before, that wording.
Yeah,
Have we?
there should be
Yield
tax
on
in
timber
there.
cut.
Is that timber
That's
tax?
the yield, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I mean, that's what you can call it either.
okay, all right.
That's why I was trying to word it how I had used
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
so this is the timber tax.
Yield tax on timber cut.
Okay.
Yield tax on timber cut. That's what I was using.
Got it.
For $24,183.32. We had a second. Wow, that's a big one for the town, I guess.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Is that one single property or is that many?
I think
Don't
it's,
we
I
usually
think
put that
on
it's
it?
Depot Road. I'm not sure.
That is a state forest, probably.
Oh, okay.
It's, I'd have to look it up.
A state, yeah, I don't know, if it's state park, the
I can look it up
Wait.
if you want, but,
White Lake State Park on Depot Road.
I think
but-
so. I think that's what
I
it
think
is.
it was on the right
Significant.
side as you're headed toward like the school, away from 16. Was it on the right side?
If
think.
you're headed,
Toward Tamworth
Toward
Village.
130.
yeah, yeah.
Roll call vote.
There, yes.
Money,
Schaefer,
no,
yes.
okay.
Prentice, yes.
Roberts, yes. 4 yes, 0 no. I make a motion to approve the accounts payable. 2023 final being $39,846.19, and 2024 in the amount of $411,867.32.
So Bruno's not here, but I feel compelled to ask. Second. Steve seconded it.
300,000 for the school, 50,000 for the library, the first quarter payment, quarterly payment, 22,000 for Avatar, our new software, and 16,000 for ambulance, and everything else is little.
Little, yeah.
Okay.
When you're done with the signature file, I just wanna add one thing.
Roll call vote.
There, yes.
Schaefer, yes.
Prentice, yes.
Roberts, yes. 4 yes, 0 no. I make a motion to approve the payroll in the amount of $46,472.28.
Second.
Roll call vote.
There, yes.
Schaefer, yes.
Prentice, yes.
Roberts, yes. 4 yes, 0 no. And in addition to the administrative report.
Yes, thank you. When I was away, you all voted to change the meeting schedule.
Oh, right.
Right, and that was okay, except that if there's one area where it's not okay. It goes off cycle for Elaine's accounts
payroll?
payable. No, payroll's fine, you don't have to sign payroll. It
Oh, the
goes
accounts
off-
payable?
Yeah, would you be amenable to me bringing at the next meeting a new suggested
Sure.
calendar.
fine,
It's pretty much gonna go back
Just
to the
flip
one that I
back?
had set up in the first place.
Yeah.
So we'll just have
Um,
2 meetings back to back and then.
Probably, I'll have to
Yeah.
figure it out, but
Skip over.
yeah.
I would love that, especially if it flipped in February, because right now February screws me up. So that'd be great,
Okay.
because I had to change dates on things. So
So,
Now
yeah,
I'm on
okay,
cycle.
good. So I just wanted to make sure. Okay, fine. I will fix the schedule.
yeah, I don't think you care to do it.
Select board update with Carl.
I went to the Cook Memorial Library Board of Trustees meeting, and they finished up their budget. They give their staff 4% cost of living increase, but I think their budget was still
It's down. Yeah.
still okay. They continue to do a great job over there. I just printed out the minutes this afternoon, so I'm having a little trouble summarizing, but I don't know. I mean, there's nothing earth-shattering at the meeting. As I say, they have great programs and good staff.
Great.
Yeah,
They're in good
it's all
shape.
good over at the library.
Yay.
That's it for me. Oh, okay, I'm up. Got a couple things. Willie's here to help me out with the TSIC meeting. I was sick and couldn't attend, but basically I'll let you take it away. You have the better accurate information than I
Well,
do.
if we got anything else to finish, I'll finish that, and I'll come at the end and give sort of a spiel on where we're at with the transfer.
As far as TSIC goes,
Well, yeah, as far as TSIC goes and where,
So you just
Where
do it
we're at,
during
what
public comment.
what we're thinking. Yeah, I'll do it in public
Okay.
comment. It'll-
okay. You know, so we've been looking at the ability to acquire NRC. I'm not sure if we probably, anyways. Things aren't, we are not in alignment with what we think the property is worth, what our budget is, and so we're continuing some negotiations with that. I will be a little more vague there and let Willie fill in the blanks. So unfortunately, didn't initially see eye to eye, but I'm hopeful that we'll be able to come around to something here eventually. We are still working on the bathroom issue and up at the current transfer station, so that's an ongoing thing that I actually am delinquent in getting up to Willie, get to speak with Willie on as well. As far, that pretty much wraps up my TSIC information. I do have to report that the Economic Development Council did vote to disband. We thankfully sent out a bunch of flyers, and that actually garnered a almost full room of people, townspeople, to come in and talk, which was great. Interestingly enough, almost all of them, a majority, were in favor of disbanding, and no one really wanted to join the committee. There was a lot of discussion about, you know, what happens if we need the Economic Development Council in the future. No problem, you know, we can bring it back. And then the decision, obviously, of what we do we zero line item and so forth on the committee. Not sure what the best course is there, but they officially have.
So they had given me a proposed budget. I did not put it in the warrant, but I think I still have to zero it out of here.
Mhm.
And with the-
But do you keep it as $1 or whatever in case?
I can keep it as a
it's-
dollar.
so it comes back someday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's about it for me.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we need to make a motion or to accept the resignation or the
I think you
dissolvement.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I make a motion that we accept the Economic Development Council's dissolution.
Second,
Roll call vote.
Various. Schaefer, yes?
Prentice, yes.
Roberts, yes. 4 yes, 0 no.
So this would be a question for a conversation for another meeting, but it's like increasingly hard, not just in Tamworth, to get people to fill in volunteer slots. We've got elections coming up. It'll be interesting to see if we actually get competitive elections. You know, it's hard.
Hopefully not this year. Why start now?
Trying to get rid of it, trying to get rid of it.
But it's a conundrum because there's a lot of work that small communities absolutely depend on volunteers for, and if people, like, life is so busy, and if we can't find enough volunteers to do it, what happens? And that's anyway. My news is cheerier, which is great. The personnel policy, we went through Keats and I had the final meeting with legal, and by the end of this week, we'll have a draft. We'll email out to all the board members, and it'll be on the agenda for discussion at the next board meeting, where hopefully there are no surprises. It's nothing we haven't talked about. We've actually.
Do we have to go have a session
No.
where we go over it? No,
I don't
okay.
think you do.
All right.
Because the questions that you had at the work session were addressed, and Elaine has been a fantastic help with her HR background and her understanding of how money works, even if it's hypothetical money that we're beholden to and not spending yet. So we started with this kind of vision for the policy, and now we're here, which is still, I think, got some really great improvements to support our staff. It is responsive still to what people in that initial survey, like a year and a half ago, said that they were interested in. And I think based on looking at other towns' personnel policies, it makes us competitive with other towns, which in this job market is great. And it really doesn't increase the bottom line very much at all, which is also great. So anyway, we're going to send that to you. You'll get it in the email. It'd be great if you go through it so that you're ready to vote on it at the meeting, because we've got a timeline of then getting it to the employees, letting them have a certain period of time to review it, and then we're going to have a rollout session with the town employees during the workday, so that Elaine can be here and explain the numbers part of it, and Keats and I will explain kind of the thinking behind it and the legal part of it, so everybody understands where we're going. And then the new policy would go into effect on March 24th, and that date was chosen based on payroll cycles. So, super exciting. I want to thank Linda Eldridge, who was the consistent member of the committee. Kelly Rhines helped for a little while. Thank her too. So it's been a great team effort. I appreciate it, and I'm so glad to almost be done with it. The other news that I have is just an update from LRPC. It just went out to the commissioners today that Jeff Hayes, who's the executive director, is going to retire. He hasn't given a hard stop deadline for him to vacate yet. He really wants to make sure that we get the right person in that seat, and we have a smooth transition. So I've only been on LRPC for a little while, but he's been super responsive to work with and will be, I'm sure, missed. That's all I got.
No update from me, other than it looks like winter compared to the last time.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Feels like winter today too.
It's finally winter.
Moving on to public input.
Yep, they want to talk first?
Well, hearing no public input.
Well,
No.
I'll try and be fairly brief. What I'm basically, some of this is directly from TSIC, and some of it is some of my own thoughts that I think the board ought to be aware of. First, I'd like to start out with that there's some sad news on the owner of North Country Recycling. He passed away in an automobile accident a few days ago.
Gosh.
The realtor that we've been working with stated that she wanted to be sure we were aware of the would stay aware of conversations that are important to work with her. So his brother Tony, I guess, will be trying to deal with his affairs. But we're at a point now with the transfer station. We know to do what we want to do down on 25 is going to take a couple of $1 million, which is more money than we have. When we get done doing it down there, we'd be limited to doing anything further because there's just no more room. So basically the lot really doesn't fit our long-term needs. We built that 20 years ago or 23 years ago, and nothing's been done in 23 years, and now we see that it's really outdated. You know, handling trash has just become so much more complicated, and there are more people in town, it's more used. We, just out of curiosity, we did the styrofoam collection on Sunday, and in 4 hours, there were 248 vehicles went through there, just in 4 hours.
Oh my word.
49 stopped, no, 51 stopped and gave us styrofoam. I took a load to Guilford yesterday, about 100 pounds, which is a lot.
That's a lot of styrofoam.
But anyway, so, you know, and if we stay at that site and try and rebuild something at that site, we'll have to set up some type of temporary transfer station, which is gonna be expensive and costly to deal with stuff. So, really, we need to sort of move on, I think, from that location. The two grants we applied for originally, the EPA and the Northern Borders Regional Commission, both of those were denied us. And we had a discussion with Northern Borders, and their basic thing was, you're not really regionalizing. We want you to be a regional. We want you to do something that will take in more than just the town of Tamworth. So we have some ideas on that. And we have an hour debriefing with the EPA coming on the 24th. I don't know whether it's going to be at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, or 3 o'clock. But anyway.
We have an invitation, I don't remember what time it's at.
Yeah, well, there was question
Okay.
as to the time, so we need to clarify that. The next is our permit, and this leads into how we might become more regional. Our permit by notification that we have now only allows the transfer station to take items from residents of the town of Tamworth. We're limited to our geographic area. If we used a standard permit, we would not be required to have solely Tamworth residents use it. I know there'd be a lot of discussion and concern about, well, somebody else is going to get an advantage of this. You know, somebody will be able to bring their trash to our station. Well, there's a way to solve that. You charge people that are not from Tamworth to deposit their goods. So that might make us more regional in a request, because we'd like to go back to Northern Borders and see if we can visit with them again to get some money out of them. And I think that we need a little less money than we asked for last time from them, which would be helpful. I mean, I think we're going to be in the $800,000 to $1 million to complete this project, if we can go with the present location that we're considering. At the new facility, we'd obviously have to re-engage with Sanborn Head or some other engineering firm to set up a place for the municipal solid waste, the MSW compactor, and some place for containers for C&D and metals. So those are the big things that I just sort of want to bring people up to and start thinking about the process of how do we become more regional and yet stay somewhat local. You know, every time I've talked to DES, they say, we like the spoke and the hub. So if you could be a hub for something, that helps everybody else out. You know, I started to look through, like Freedom doesn't take fluorescent light bulbs. Somebody from Freedom came with fluorescent light bulbs, we could charge them $1 a foot or whatever the fee is that would cover it, and they could deposit them there. Then we're regional. We're helping other communities. So we have to really sit down and think about how we want to design what we want to take, not take, how we can best save the town money by having other people donate their recyclable products that we could bail and send away. Because if somebody's using the facility and they bring recyclables, it's money. I'd just like to leave with about 4 advantages to the new site. The present site, until the new site is open, we'd be able to use it. So if we change location entirely, we wouldn't have to set up a temporary site. There's extra office space. This building is bigger than, for the office space, is bigger than we need, but that could be rented, possible income, you know, some other town use, storage, something. We could use it, I'm sure. The land is large enough for potential for a solar array to be leased so that the town has a guaranteed income every year from solar lease. I mean, it's a way to find some revenue. And sale of the present site that we have would help reduce the cost of the move to a new site. So that's, I just wanted to try and bring the board up to speed a little bit as to, you know, what I see is down the road. You know, if I had a sword, I'd fall on it because, you know, I felt we could do this all for $1.4 million and it just isn't realistic. You know, COVID and inflation just blew us all out of the water. I mean, you heard it in the presentation tonight that from starting point, you know, I mean, it was before COVID, it was, you know, a small number and now it's a giant number. That are just, people are struggling. So the thing is, to make it cost effective for the town, I'm gonna have to spend some money somehow, somewhere. I mean, you just can't keep doing the same old thing, and, you know, I think we might push back the bathroom if we had a real definite thing that we were gonna move to a new building that had one. So we wouldn't spend 50,000 or whatever cheaper number you can come up with,
And,
you know, to build one for a short time.
excuse me, would, the current transfer station, would the plan be to sell that if we?
Yes, absolutely.
I
Wanted
don't
to
see
do
any
that.
need for the town to have that facility. I mean, I don't think it,
So-
the land doesn't really get us that much, you know, as far as.
No,
the
but I
town
wonder
owning these.
what we would get back out of that if, I mean, because that would obviously offset the whole project.
Right, well, that's the
I don't
idea,
know.
is that, yeah, you'd have to
Yeah.
fund
It's
up
assessed
front,
for
but
about
then you'd have to.
275, which
And I would
if you,
really think we'd get
if
more than
you-
that right now.
if you
That's
put the
what the assessment
equalization,
was.
it's still only like 450, which seems low.
Yeah, for what stuff is right now, but
Yeah.
But you never know, I mean.
no, you
it's
don't know.
It's always what the market will bear at the time. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, obviously, we're looking at a place that has about the same amount of land, but it has buildings on it that are a lot different than what we have.
Yep.
And it's buildable land, easily
How
buildable
many
land.
acres does our transfer station sit on? I know it's very different.
85 acres.
Oh. that
Really?
much.
It goes right
Yeah.
back to the Moultonboro line, doesn't it?
Oh,
Right
I
up
know
the
it
hill.
is.
Yeah, yes.
But-
Not very,
I
not
mean,
very
it's
usable land.
steep
No,
slope.
I mean, you know, it'd be even tough to probably do housing in there.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
it's not.
it's something like the fire apparatus place, you know, something of that type of service could be probably built, put there.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
It is
anything we
still-
have there is an asset at the moment. Cleaning up the site, I don't think would be a big deal because you just haul all the containers out and sweep it clean and done.
Yep.
Yep.
Lock the gate. You know, so, and it's got three-phase power there, somebody wanted to put in a small plant of some nature to do something. It's on Route 25, which is a, you know, east-west highway, which is a short distance from the north-south highway. So, you know,
And the
it's
new
easy-
site's right by, doesn't the train track go right by the new site?
Yeah,
Basically.
So,
yeah, so, I mean, you know, that's why I
HPV,
mentioned
whatever,
trash,
whatever.
you know, you could, you know,
yeah.
hauling trash, I mean, if you can fill a train car, it might be cheaper than waste management.
You guys probably did this way back at the very beginning of your TSIC time, but, I mean, have you polled all the abutting towns to see? I mean, I've been to a lot of different transfer
they did.
stations, and it's like, ooh, maybe you wanna just close this and become a regional.
Well, we did, we sent letters, and I went around and visited 4 different towns, and talked to them and said, look, this is what we're trying to do, is we're trying to become more regional here because it costs a lot of money to build these facilities. And the basic reason, well, we're all set right now. We're all set right now, is what we really got. Now, our contract with Waste Management doesn't end until 2025, you know, so there wasn't a lot of,
Not much enthusiasm.
not much enthusiasm for looking to the future. It was, we're okay now. And I was very disappointed with that myself personally. But I, you know, let each town do what they gotta do. You know, I'm not trying to change them. I mean, and the thing is, if we're located over at, next to Pine Tree Power there, if you look at the demographics and where the population center of the town is, that's where it is.
Right.
That's the big bulk of it. And you also have, not too far from there, you have a lot of people that live in Madison.
Madison,
It would be
yeah.
very convenient for them versus driving all the way up there. So in a way, it solves some problems. You know, everything's a management issue. It's how you manage it. And you know, if we can get the price right, I think it's a good deal.
Well, I applaud you for thinking outside the box, instead of just kind of beating your head against that big number and that ledge. And because this site has a lot more potential for diversified use, which I think is interesting, and a better investment for the town in the long run.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's right. I mean, you're gonna spend $2 million up there.
Yeah.
I'd rather spend $2 million on something new that
With
you
solar.
can expand.
Yeah.
You can do more with. You can look at the future and say, this will hold us for the next 30 years instead of, okay, in 15 years, we've got a $2 million facility that we're outgrown, we can't do what we need to do. So it's the long-range planning aspect of it. And I mean, I was hoping we were gonna be able to break ground this spring on a project. Where's my sword? You know, it's not happening. You know, it's,
And I'm not sure how to do this, but I wonder, because of the multiple purposes that facility could serve, what other grants we could get that aren't even transfer station waste related.
yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, I don't have a good answer for that. I know that on brownfields, you can get money for solar to put on brownfields, but I don't want a brownfield.
Right.
What's a brownfield?
A brownfield is a place that's contaminated,
Contaminated.
needs reclamation. And, you know, if we get this, we want it clean. We don't want any problems. We don't want anything to come back and bite us later. You know, we'll have to do an environmental study on the property. You know, it's gonna cost $50,000 to do the study, but
Yeah.
$50,000 spent up front is better than $1 million, oh, you've gotta clean it up.
Right.
It's pretty cheap insurance when you get down to it.
If there was, is that something that can be part of the purchase agreement, or?
Oh, it definitely would. I
Yeah.
mean, we'd
Well,
have,
no, I mean like the
Price-wise?
$50,000. Yeah, the $50,000 spent. But I guess nobody else that buys it may even care about doing that.
We'd
so
have to
that's
do that before you even go into that
well,
phase of the
your,
project anyways.
your purchase and sales would be
Would have the
stipulate
contingent.
that
Yeah.
if we get a negative on our environmental study,
Yeah. It's just like doing
deals
your
off.
home inspection.
You know,
Yep.
so,
But we're paying for the home inspection. If the home inspection's bad, then we're not gonna buy it anyway.
Right.
Right.
exactly.
That seems,
You know,
But I bet you can get grants to do the site
Study?
assessment.
Maybe.
I don't know. But we do have the USD funds, I believe, until 2027. We'll have to do some paperwork with them to transfer from one location to another location.
Have you talked to them about that?
Yeah.
And they're all right with that?
Yeah, I mean, there's, you know, Form X you gotta fill
Right.
out so that they can follow along. And Richard Doucette's comment was he'd rather save the USDA money not in the purchase of the land, but use that for equipment improvements. They're last in anyway. In doing so, the USDA wouldn't have an attachment to the land that might go on forever. So you'd use our town money to buy it and use
That's smart.
the USDA money for equipment and improvements that you need. But anyway, so we're trudging along,
Yeah.
trying to make it as economically feasible for the town as possible. But I think the big thing that the board needs to think about is that do we want to change from being a sole community where we just deal with our own stuff and everybody else has to worry about their stuff, or do we want to allow other people to use our facility?
well, I think it'd be great to allow other people to use the facility, but if they don't want to, how do we?
Right.
It's their
I mean,
choice. We
because-
become regional, it's their choice.
Well, the question is, what do we need to get from other towns so that we can get those regional grants?
Nothing.
Nothing. It's just literally how we license ourselves.
Yeah, because they don't, you
What's
know,
the downside?
the other towns you know,
Yeah.
Why don't we do it
But
now?
I bet, but I mean, I
More
bet,
overhead,
I think
more
that,
people to manage a higher influx of.
Northern
No,
Borders
no, I'm
is
saying
gonna,
what,
As far as the permit.
I'm just gonna say, Northern Borders though, they're not gonna give you the money unless that they see that there is interest from the other towns.
but it's not a, their town doesn't have anything to say about it.
You're saying you,
I'm just saying,
You don't have a letter of interest from some
I'm just saying, I
towns.
think that they're gonna want something other than you take a Sharpie marker and cross off Tamworth transfer station and write regional transfer station. They're gonna wanna see a little more,
Well, I think
Data
you
to
can
show.
explain that to them, is that the way I don't know if they understand how transfer stations are set up, number one.
yeah.
You know, because this is something, they like to fund coffee houses and theaters and that type of thing is what they spend a lot of their money on. So a transfer station is a totally different animal than what they're normally dealing with.
Well, I think, but they're economic development, so you've gotta show the connection more clearly about how this waste management is. I mean, that's what their mission is, economic development, and then,
Well, yes and no. I mean, and it is an economic development. I mean, you know, maybe the fact is if we're busy enough there, you'd employ more people. You know,
well, that's
I
part of
mean,
what you write in the grant, yeah.
you know, and it would take time. It isn't gonna happen overnight.
Yeah.
You know, you've gotta build it first before they'll come. You know,
Yeah.
But I know if I lived next door to that, I wouldn't drive all the way up to Boulder Road in Madison to dispose of my stuff if I lived right around the corner. The DES, I was talking to somebody, Tara Albert, who's the head of their licensing for people working at transfer stations. And one of her comments is the hub and spoke. She says that's really the answer today to the trash, is that you've got to have regional. These towns can't do it on their own. So anyway, that's my spiel. Thank you for your time.
All right,
thank you.
Thanks, Willie.
Thanks for coming in.
We'll keep going. I'll come back whenever I got some bright new idea or some bad old idea.
Thank you for coming in tonight.
Yeah.
You have a lot of notes there.
Any other public input? Hearing no more public input.
This is Maureen.
Oh, sorry.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
I just wanted to follow up on Willie's comments about the styrofoam recycling very briefly. Thanks to Willie and Ellen and Maud for arranging it. During those 4 hours that Willie reported on, 20% of the cars that went through the transfer station dropped off styrofoam. I think that's pretty remarkable. I also applaud, Willie for the nice conversations that happened. People were really glad to see us doing that. And they, wanted to know more about what was being done with the styrofoam. It was really a very good event, and I'm grateful to the volunteers who put it together. Thanks.
Yeah, and thank you for your help. The other thing is, on that styrofoam, there was a young gentleman, and most of the people collecting the styrofoam were older people. But the young gentleman stopped and he says, "What's this all about?" And he was interested in the process and what was going on. He says, "Oh, that's great. I'm glad to know that. I'll be back with some." So it's just getting the message out that
Yeah.
really pays and works out. Anyway, you're gonna go on to something else.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there any other public input? Hearing no more public input, I make a motion to go into non-public under RSA 91-A:3 2E session 1, RSA 91-A:3 2E session 2,
No.
right?
We did,
No?
we did one of them.
already.
Okay, never mind. Just session 1
EA.
and RSA 91-A:3 2A session 2 at 6:57 p.m.
Second.
Roll call vote.
There, yes.
Schaefer, yes.
Prentice, yes.
Roberts, yes. 4 yes, 0 no. We are now in non-public at 6:57 p.m.
Okay, yeah, sure.
We don't want her to read about it enough, yeah.
I just couldn't remember what the RSA was on.
Look you rose gold.
I make
Okay.
a motion to come out of non-public at 7:10. Jeez, I'm terrible with that. I can't see with the glare.
Second.
Minutes from.
Roll call vote.
Roll call vote.
Very yes, Schaefer yes.
Prentice, yes.
Roberts, yes. I make a motion to seal the minutes from RSA 91-A:3 to A, and that would have been
Session
2, 3.
three.
Because we had one at the beginning.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Very yes.
Schaefer, yes.
Prentice, yes.
Roberts, yes. 4 yes, 0 no. We are now to non-public. Motion to adjourn.
And what time is it?
7:09.
7:09.
7-Eleven.
Well,
That clock says 7:11, so I don't want to hear it.
I do
I'm
actually,
going by the glare.
I do stand on a chair and
adjust that.
periodically adjust that clock because it loses time.